How a millionaire helped a homeless black man impress Elon Musk and Donald Trump. The city never felt colder than that morning. Rain dripped from the cracked sidewalks, mixing with the grime of a place divided by wealth you could almost reach for but never touch. Marcus, a black man with a worn jacket and hands that trembled not just from the cold, moved through the crowds like a shadow. Unseen, unheard, forgotten. But inside, his mind buzzed with ideas. Big ideas. Dreams that stretched far beyond the dark alley where he slept, or the neon glare of downtown billboards flashing luxury he'd never known. Marcus was no ordinary homeless man. Behind his tired eyes, there was lightning, an inventor's spark. Caught in a world stacked against him, he carried blueprints folded in newspaper scraps, sketches of machines that could change energy, mobility, even lives. He just needed one chance. On that rainy day, fate shoved Marcus directly into a moment that would not leave him the same. There was something about the way Marcus's fingers cradled a broken piece of metal. How his eyes flicked with a mixture of hunger and hope. Elon's curiosity was piqued. But the real surprise? A millionaire nobody expected showed up out of the blue. A shadow millionaire who rarely bothered with public charity but had been quietly watching Marcus's strange rise on the streets. This man, rich with unseen power, whispered to Elon, "You're looking at a mind trapped by misery. But that's about to change." Marcus was pulled out of obscurity, suddenly invited into places where ideas mattered more than skin color or worn shoes. Elon listened as Marcus laid out visions of reclaimed energy and devices seeking to rebalance the world. Impressed wasn't the word. Elon was moved. Shaken even. Dreams that once hid behind desperation now danced on the edge of reality. But success casts long shadows. The warmth of newfound hope soon sparked cold fear. Secrets slept beneath Marcus's calm. "Waitin'," it whispered at night, threatening to unravel the fragile life he was stitching together. Then came the rival, a snake slithering from Elon's own past, hungry to crush anything fresh, anything new. This former associate's vicious efforts clawed at Marcus's work, spreading rumors, stealing designs, twisting truths. The street smarts that once saved Marcus from darkness were now armies he had to rally. And as the walls closed in, a figure from the past stepped out of the shadows, heavy with secrets. An old friend whose arrival rippled through Marcus's mind like a storm, carrying news that could break or build him. The question now roared louder than ever. Could Marcus hold on to the man he was while reaching for the man he wanted to be? And what of that unfinished project, left half-lit in a dusty corner, whispering mysteries Marcus wasn't ready to face? The streets had given him pain, but the boardroom was giving him a new kind of fear. Marcus stood at the fork. Chase the dreams. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without notice. Take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content that's coming. And since you're here, drop a powerful like that really helps me with the algorithm. Oh, and let me know in the comments, what city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. Marcus stood at the fork, his heart pounding like drum beats, echoing in a vast emptiness. Dreams shone bright before them, but shadows clung like a second skin, begging for his attention. He scanned the room, his thoughts swirling. Would he reach for the future or protect his past? There in the glimmering conference hall, hope felt tangible. Elon leaned in, captivated. But just as Marcus took a breath, ready to unveil his vision, a sudden crash broke the tension. The glass doors shattered, showering the polished floor with sparkling shards. Gasps rippled through the crowd like a wave. A figure stumbled in, wild-eyed, disheveled, chest-heaving. It was Malik, his brother, long thought lost to the chaos of addiction and despair. The crowd recoiled, a collective shudder of shock. Marcus's throat tightened, astonishment clashing with fear. How could he be here? Just yesterday, Marcus had buried thoughts of Malik, tucked them away beneath layers of painful memories. "Marcus!" Malik cried, voice cracking, urgency racing beneath his words. "They're coming! You need to hide!" "What are you talking about?" Panic whipped through Marcus. He darted forward, feeling the weight of the room's stairs. As Malik grabbed his shoulders, desperation bleeding through his fingers, the crowd hushed, reality teetering. "They're hunting you!" Malik hissed, eyes darting to the security team, closing in on them. "You don't understand. He's not who you think he is. He'll destroy everything." Marcus froze. The twisted fear in Malik's gaze painted a new landscape, one filled with shadows Marcus had never fathomed. The millionaire, the so-called savior, could be a predator? Questions surged, crashing into his mind like violent waves. Who was watching him? What had Malik stumbled into? "They're after your ideas, Marcus! That guy, he's made deals you can't imagine. If they find you, security, move away!" A voice barked from the back. Two imposing men approached, eyes narrowing. Marcus felt the air grow charged, suffocating. Time slowed, the world reduced to the wild beating of his heart and the panic pooling in Malik's eyes. "Don't trust them! Don't trust him!" Malik's voice cut through the thickening silence. He stepped in front of Marcus, trembling. Every instinct told Marcus to retreat, but an anchor held him fast. The millionaire emerged from the crowd, an unsettling calm cloaking him. "Let him be, gentlemen," he said smoothly, as if the storm brewing didn't touch him. "Marcus is in good hands." "Good hands!" Malik snarled, his anger igniting. "You're a snake. You've come to take his future, just like you did to mine. You sold me out for a dime." Gasps erupted again, ripples of disbelief washing over everyone. Marcus felt his breath catch. A long-hidden truth clawed its way to the surface, shredding fabrications he'd woven around his brother's fall. The pieces fit together too neatly, like a puzzle he never wanted to complete. "Malik!" "Stop!" Marcus pleaded. "You're not making sense." But nothing was lining up anymore. The sands of his life slipped through his fingers. The millionaire smirked, spreading his arms wide. "Isn't that right, Malik? You've always been the weak link." The words hung in the air, heavy with memories Marcus thought he'd buried. Suddenly, everything felt skewed. Malik, once a source of instability, now held the key to hidden darkness. Was it true? Was the man who brought him hope really the architect of his brother's downfall? Marcus's mind raced. Could he trust Malik? Could he trust anyone? The crowd buzzed with anticipation, a jumble of murmurs creeping into the silence, eyes darting between the brothers and the millionaire. Betrayal danced in the air, intertwining with the hope he'd clung to. "Stay back!" Marcus shouted, heart hammering. "I don't know who to believe!" Malik's gaze flickered with a mix of hurt, anger, but also something softer, a plea for redemption. Was this the real Malik, or was it yet another face in a long line of masks? Tension crackled, a storm brewing in the hearts of all present. Marcus felt the weight of his choices aching inside. The moment hung there, suspended, raw. Could he step forward into the unknown or retreat into the comforts of despair? The choice loomed as questions raced through his mind, unrelenting. He was standing on the edge of something profound, something dangerous. Would he leap? And if he did, what secrets would tumble out of the shadows? Marcus stood at the fork, heart racing, thoughts colliding like thunder. The weight of dreams felt heavier than the skies above. He longed to shed the shadows of his past. But could he really trust anyone now? Suddenly, in the middle of his chaotic thoughts, the air shifted. A siren blared, slicing through the noise. Everyone turned as a black SUV screeched to a halt near the crowd. Marcus blinked in disbelief as the passenger door flung open. Out stepped the old friend who had haunted his memories. But it wasn't just any friend. It was Jordan, a man Marcus hadn't seen in years, face lined with fresh worry. "Marcus!" Jordan shouted, his voice cutting through the rain. "You need to come with me now!" Confusion painted Marcus's features as he moved instinctively toward Jordan. The crowd buzzing with curiosity. He felt the prickle of eyes on them, judgment swirling in the air, thicker than the raindrops. "What are you doing here?" Marcus questioned, heart pounding, unease creeping in. "I can't explain here. Just trust me." Jordan's eyes darted nervously, filled with urgency. Something primal urged Marcus to follow, a mix of dread and hope. But as he stepped into a new reality, a blow struck hard against familiar ground. A loud crash rang out, shattering the moment. The crowd gasped, eyes wide as the SUV exploded in a fireball of orange and black. Panic erupted, people screaming, shoving each other to escape the chaos. Marcus froze, body tense, caught between flight and fight. "Get down!" Jordan yelled, pulling Marcus to the ground, just as debris rained down around them. The smell of burning rubber met Marcus's nostrils, fear gripping his heart like a vice. "We're not safe! We need to move!" Shaky hands dragged Marcus away from the horror, rushing through the maze of terrified bodies, confusion clouding his mind. Was this some kind of twisted plan? And what of the dreams he fought so hard to reach? Jordan kept glancing back, every stride pounding the pavement like a drum. "Someone's after you, Marcus. It's not just a coincidence you caught Musk's attention." "Why?" Marcus's voice cracked in the rising din. "What do you mean? I just wanted to create." "It's deeper than that." Jordan's voice was a mix of fear and determination. "Remember when we were kids? Those nights we talked about changing the world? It's about your family, Marcus. They're not who you think they are." The words struck Marcus like a punch. His heart raced. "What are you talking about?" But before Jordan could answer, the ground beneath them trembled, and Marcus felt a sharp pain in his chest. He staggered back, eyes narrowing in on a figure emerging from the smoke. "It can't be," he whispered, breath hitching with disbelief. From the chaos, a woman stepped forward, face obscured by a hood, but those eyes, sharp and burning, pierced through the haze. "It's time to find out the truth, Marcus, about who you are and who you were meant to be." The crowd fell silent, the earlier panic replaced by a thick, suffocating tension. It felt like the world stopped for Marcus. Secrets from the shadows of his past loomed larger and scarier than ever. "Who are you?" he shouted, almost pleading, voice quaking. The truth was a dark storm gathering over him, and it frightened him more than the explosion, more than it all. The woman stepped closer, words hanging in the air like heavy fog. "You're not just any inventor, Marcus. You come from a legacy that could change everything." And just like that, reality shattered. The knife of the past was suddenly very real, carving paths he never expected. Unanswered questions clawed at him. The truth unspooling dangerously close. Could he embrace this new identity? Or was it too late? Worry crept in again. Who could he really trust now? Marcus felt his heart thumping like a wild drum inside his chest as the mysterious woman stood before him, shrouded in smoke. "Who are you?" he shouted again, desperation clawing at him. He wasn't prepared for the truth, whatever it might be. "Time to find out the truth, Marcus, about who you are and who you were meant to be." Her voice was steady, but Marcus could sense a storm brewing just beneath the surface. The crowd drew back, eyes wide, breaths held. Everything felt heavy, drenched in tension. Jordan's grip tightened on Marcus's arm, pulling him slightly away. "This isn't the time. We need to." Suddenly, chaos erupted. A deafening explosion ripped through the air, louder than anything Marcus had ever felt. People screamed, their horror echoing off the walls, and flames danced behind them, consuming the SUV. It turned into an inferno of confusion and fear. People rushed, shoving past each other. The ground seemed to shake under the force of panic. "I think the millionaire set you up," Malik shouted, eyes darting around. The subtle fear was now a roar, engulfing everything. "We don't know who there is to trust." The woman's sharp gaze flicked toward Malik, and for a split second, a glimmer of recognition crossed her face. "You," she whispered, stepping closer, eyes narrowing. And then she turned to Marcus, her expression shifting. "You need to listen. There's no time." Before Marcus could respond, the millionaire emerged from the smoke, his composure unnerving amid the chaos. Now, let's not get hasty," he said, a smirk plastered on his face. ... "You've always been so impulsive." "Marcus, let's talk." But Marcus didn't want to talk. He wanted answers. This wasn't a coincidence, was it? A cold realization gripped him, a feeling deeper than fear. Everything was a setup. "Setup? No!" The millionaire laughed, but the sound was hollow, ringing false. "I've given you opportunities, nothing more." And just like that, the world tilted. The woman stepped forward, speaking again with newfound urgency. "You need to understand your family. Your potential." She hesitated, her expression turning somber. "Your mother was involved in something bigger. The people behind the millionaire. They want to erase any trace of that legacy." "Legacy? What are you talking about?" Marcus's voice shook as the pieces of his life scattered in disarray. Memories of his past flickered. Flashes of conversations, arguments, family secrets. Was it true? Was his past more than just poverty and pain? Then he heard it. A roar of engines. Bullets began to fly, sharp and explosive, tearing through the air. People fell, screams mingling with shots. The crowd exploded into chaos, running for their lives. Marcus could feel the coldo bornable de pánico twistiendo su estómago. ¡Mueven! Jordan clamó, apujando a Marcus por toda la fila. Necesitamos salir de aquí. Ellos te vienen. Marcus empieza a rezar, tratando de hacer sentido de todo. ¿Por qué? Se contrae en el popular de la escena, lo saca y ya... ¡Pss! Clara y hortante. Porque, Marcus, tu vida no es solo tuya. Están atado a fuerzas allá de tu control. Si no encuentras tu camino, no te encuentras nada. Everything que tengas con diere se pierde. En un instante, Marcus se quedó con una realización que le tumba el pensamiento. My family! Malik! I was meant to trust you, not him? Malik cried, looking more panicked than ever. They'll destroy you! The truth pulsated in the air, thicker than smoke, the shadows lengthening with every word. Marcus stood on the precipice of understanding, something far bigger than just his dreams. But with each passing second, the danger closed in. The air trembled with uncertainty. As the carnage spread, Marcus felt the weight of secrets pressing down on him. Was there a way out? Could he trust his brother, his friend? And the woman? What legacy was worth fighting for? And at what cost? The path ahead blurred. What do I do? He gasped, a liminal space of dread and desperation. And in that moment, a gunshot rang out, echoing through his thoughts, drowning out everything as darkness loomed on the horizon. Marcus stood at the fork, caught in the whirlwind of his new life. Behind him, the shadows whispered old fears, but ahead, bright dreams beckoned. The tension in his chest tightened, heart racing. He felt the weight of possibilities, too heavy, yet so light. Choice, hope, a daunting blend. Just then, the crowd shifted. A commotion flared, flickering like a faulty bulb. An explosion echoed from a nearby alley, sending a wave of panic rippling through the bustling street. People screamed, scrambling for cover, eyes wide with shock. The air thickened with fear, the warmth of hope extinguished in an instant. Marcus's heart sank. He turned to see a plume of black smoke rising, swallowing the sunlight. He felt it. The ground beneath him trembled, reality shifting like sands. Connected threads of his newfound world began to fray. What was that? He gasped, his voice barely above a whisper. Elon's face paled. He instinctively stepped back, his instinct for safety clashing with the desperate surge of curiosity. The millionaire who'd brought Marcus into the light stiffened, staring wide-eyed at the chaos. "We need to get out of here," he shouted, urgency slicing through him. But before Marcus could respond, a shadow emerged from the smoke, tall and menacing. It stepped into the light, a figure from Marcus's past he never wanted to see again. Jake, an old associate, emerged, dragging a heavy bag behind him, eyes glinting with malice. "Miss me?" he sneered, the kind of smile that sent chills through the crowd. "What are you doing here?" Marcus's voice trembled, not from the cold, but from an awakening fear he thought he'd buried. "I came to collect what's mine," Jake hissed, his dark eyes locking onto Marcus with a sinister resolve. "Your dreams were never yours. You were always just a pawn." Gasps erupted around them, murmurs rippling through the throng of onlookers. The millionaire drew closer, ready to defend Marcus, but a ripple of uncertainty gripped everyone. "Pawn? What are you talking about?" Marcus demanded, a lump growing in his throat. His mind raced. Confusion clawed at him. He had escaped this man, this darkness. Jake's laugh sliced through the tension like a knife. "You think you're building something new? Every invention, every idea has a cost, Marcus. You owe me, and now it's time to pay up." A flash of vulnerability crossed Elon's face, as if the weight of the world settled squarely on his shoulders. He glanced at the millionaire. "Searching for answers." The crowd held its breath, poised between fear and disbelief. "Marcus, what's he saying?" Elon's voice barely broke through the ringing in the air. But before Marcus could answer, a loud crash echoed. The ground shook again, and the nearby building trembled. All eyes shifted toward the source of the noise as people stumbled back, confusion swirling into chaos. Marcus looked from Jake to the chaos unfolding around him. The truth was clawing its way to the surface, a truth that shook his core, a revelation that surged through him like a wildfire. And just like that, everything he thought was clear began to blur. The shadows he thought he'd left behind enveloped him once more. Trust shattered. "Marcus!" Elon's voice cut through the noise, panic evident. "What's going on? Who is he?" Heart racing, Marcus faced Jake. Every ounce of courage he had gathered trembled in his hands. "You don't understand. I didn't." But the words got swallowed by the chaos. The crowd erupted into screams again as the smoke thickened. And amidst the terror, the question loomed like a storm cloud. Who could he really trust now? Marcus stood at the fork of his life, a fork that felt sharp enough to cut him in two. His heart raced. The dreams ahead sparkled like stars. But the shadows sneaked closer, whispering doubts. Could he really shake the past? Would he lose himself in the pursuit of something bigger? Then everything shattered. The old friend stepped forward, face pinched, eyes glistening like wet pavement. "Marcus, I have to tell you something," she breathed out, urgency wrapping her words. "Your family. There's a reason you struggled. You have to know the truth." Marcus's stomach twisted. "What truth? What are you talking about?" Suddenly, chaos erupted nearby. A figure burst into the crowded street, shouting. Panic rippled through the onlookers like a sudden storm. Marcus turned, his heart pounding. The man was wild-eyed, clothes tattered, face smeared with dirt. "Elon, you have to listen to me." El líder, seguridad, estaban allí. Su expresión, una mezcla de confusión y caución. Marcus, él estaba entusiasmo. Pero el incierto era señor extranjero que de repente lanzaba el puño a Marcus. Él no es porque es basipasi. Qué triste al momento, decía Marcus. ¿Con qué desentía? A confidence he'd built teetered on the edge. He's lying about his inventions. He's not an inventor, he's... The words hung heavy, thickening the air. Marcus's heart dropped. What? Your uncle? He was a criminal. The project you're working on, it's based on stolen technology. Elon's brows furrowed. The crowd leaned in, hanging on the revelation like leaves clinging to a branch in autumn. Marcus's vision blurred. Everything began to spin. His family's past, dark whispers he buried, now clawed at the surface. "No!" Marcus shouted, shaking his head. "That's not true! My uncle was—" "Your uncle was involved in a scandal that rocked the industry. You've taken his secrets, his designs." The man was on a roll now, and with each word, Marcus felt the ground giving way beneath him. "You'll be exposed, and it will ruin everything." Stunned faces stared back at Marcus. They didn't know the real him, but now they were beginning to see the cracks in the facade. Doubt began to trickle through the cracks, the cold creeping in. The million-dollar dreams turned sour in his throat, a lump of fear coiling tight. "Stop!" Elon finally interjected, voice deep and commanding. "What proof do you have?" The madman laughed, a crazy sound that echoed in the tense air. "Proof? The truth is all the proof you need. Ask around, check the files, you'll see." A wave of murmurs washed over the crowd. Whispers of confusion and shock bounced around as people began to share their thoughts. Each reaction an additional stab at Marcus's heart. His voice trembled. "This isn't true. I built that from scratch. But as he spoke, shadowed memories flickered in his mind. Images of his uncle that felt so comforting now twisted into something sinister. ... Could it really be? He had fought hard for recognition, for hope. But now it felt like shackles tightening around him. A flicker of doubt ignited within the crowd. Relationships built on admiration began to crack. The millionaire, once intrigued, now stood hesitant, his posture shifting. Marcus felt the weight of every gaze, the prickling fear crawling up his spine. He had climbed so high only to tumble down into a chaotic uncertainty. He looked at Elon, pleading, hoping for a glimmer of faith. But what if the truth was simpler, darker? What if he wasn't just stumbling into greatness? What if he was digging into his own grave? The fog thickened, uncertainty gripping him more tightly than the cold on that fateful morning. And suddenly, the path ahead felt more treacherous than ever. Which way would he turn? The air was electric, filled with a sense of impending storm, and everything hung in the balance. Marcus stood at the fork, heart racing. Dreams dangled like ripe fruit, but shadows loomed heavy. Would he forge ahead, or clutch the secrets that clung to him? Suddenly, a commotion shattered the heavy rain. Gasps rippled through the crowd like whispers in the wind. A flash of blue, a police car screeched to a stop. Lights sliced through the gloom, illuminating faces frozen in shock. Marcus turned, confusion washing over him. People shoved each other, trying to get a better look. He felt it, an icy grip tightening in his chest. "What's happening?" he murmured to the millionaire, who stood wide-eyed beside him. The man shook his head, as if he couldn't comprehend it either. Then, the unthinkable. A woman rushed into view, her hair wild, clothes tattered. She was screaming, her voice piercing through the air like a siren. "No! Please, don't take him! He's innocent!" The crowd parted, revealing a figure being dragged by two officers. Marcus gasped. His brother, David, a man who once fought for them both. Now, handcuffed and struggling against the grasp of the law. "David, what's going on?" Marcus shouted, but the words barely reached his brother through the chaos. Panic coursed through Marcus, the world narrowing down to the terror in David's eyes. A heavy silence hung as the crowd held its breath. David twisted, glancing toward Marcus. "I didn't do it, Marcus! They're lying!" The desperation in David's voice shattered the thin connection of hope Marcus clung to. Then, the words came flooding back. The rumors, the stories Marcus had heard in the shadows about David's past. Dark whispers of crimes, tangled with desperation. They were just tales, dismissed too lightly. But now, faced with the gnawing truth, doubt clawed at him. Suddenly, the millionaire stepped forward, shouting for the officers to stop. "You can't do this! He needs legal representation! This is wrong!" But all eyes were on Marcus. Collective murmurs rippled through the crowd. Some supportive, others suspicious. Who's this guy? What's his connection? Before Marcus could respond, David shouted again, "I need you, Marcus! Help me!" At that moment, a crash ripped through the air, a loud bang, followed by screams. A black SUV screeched into the scene. A figure jumped out, his face obscured by shadows and panic. He raised a weapon toward the sky. "Get back!" Tension sliced through the air. The crowd erupted into chaos, people shoving and screaming, desperately trying to flee. In that instant, Marcus's world flipped. David's plea echoed louder. "Marcus, don't leave me!" But it felt like a nightmare, a trap snapping shut. Marcus's feet were rooted to the ground. His brother's voice faded into the madness. Fear expanded within him like a balloon, ready to burst. And then everything exploded in a whirl of sound and movement. Amidst the chaos, Marcus locked eyes with the millionaire. Their worlds were colliding, secrets untold now swirling together in a maelstrom of uncertainty. The air was thick with unanswered questions, shadows poised to unravel everything. What was real? What was a lie? As Marcus stood frozen, his heart pounded. This day would change everything. He didn't just face danger. He faced the truth he had feared most. The foundations of his dreams trembled. Would he lose everything he had fought for? Or would this be the fire that forged his path ahead? The chaos continued around him, but the real battle was just beginning inside. Marcus stood at the fork, caught in the whirlwind of his new life. Behind him, the shadows whispered old fears, but ahead, bright dreams beckoned. The tension in his chest tightened, heart racing. He felt the weight of possibilities, too heavy, yet so light. Choice, hope, a daunting blend. Suddenly, a commotion shattered the heavy rain. Gasps rippled through the crowd like whispers in the wind. A flash of blue, a police car screeched to a stop. Lights sliced through the gloom, illuminating faces frozen in shock. Marcus turned, confusion washing over him. People shoved each other, trying to get a better look. He felt it, an icy grip tightening in his chest. "What's happening?" He murmured to the millionaire who stood wide-eyed beside him. The man shook his head, as if he couldn't comprehend it either. Then, the unthinkable. A woman rushed into view. Her hair wild, clothes tattered. She was screaming. Her voice, piercing through the air like a siren. "No, please, don't take him! He's innocent!" The crowd parted, revealing a figure being dragged by two officers. Marcus gasped. His brother, David, a man who once fought for them both, now handcuffed and struggling against the grasp of the law. "David!" "What's going on?" Marcus shouted, but the words barely reached his brother through the chaos. Panic coursed through Marcus, the world narrowing down to the terror in David's eyes. A heavy silence hung as the crowd held its breath. David twisted, glancing toward Marcus. "I didn't do it, Marcus! They're lying!" The desperation in David's voice shattered the thin connection of hope Marcus clung to. Then the words came flooding back. The rumors. The stories Marcus had heard in the shadows about David's past. Dark whispers of crimes tangled with desperation. They were just tales, dismissed too lightly. But now, faced with the gnawing truth, doubt clawed at him. Suddenly, the millionaire stepped forward, shouting for the officers to stop. "You can't do this! He needs legal representation! This is wrong!" But all eyes were on Marcus. Collective murmurs rippled through the crowd, some supportive, others suspicious. "Who's this guy? What's his connection?" Before Marcus could respond, David shouted again. "I need you, Marcus! Help me!" At that moment, a crash ripped through the air. A loud bang, followed by screams. A black SUV screeched into the scene. A figure jumped out, his face obscured by shadows and panic. He raised a weapon toward the sky. "Get back!" Tension sliced through the air. The crowd erupted into chaos, people shoving and screaming, desperately trying to flee. In that instant, Marcus's world flipped. David's plea echoed louder. "Marcus, don't leave me!" But it felt like a nightmare, a trap snapping shut. Marcus's feet were rooted to the ground. His brother's voice faded into the madness. Fear expanded within him like a balloon ready to burst. And then, everything exploded in a whirl of sound and movement. Amidst the chaos, Marcus locked eyes with the millionaire. Their worlds were colliding, secrets untold now swirling together in a maelstrom of uncertainty. The air was thick with unanswered questions, shadows poised to unravel everything. What was real? What was a lie? As Marcus stood frozen, his heart pounded. This day would change everything. He didn't just face danger. He faced the truth he had feared most. The foundations of his dreams trembled. Suddenly, a piercing scream cut through the chaos, freezing everyone in place. The wild-eyed woman who had rushed in took a step forward, her expression transforming from panic to fierce determination. "I can't let this happen." She darted toward David, her voice rising above the din. "He's innocent! It's not him you want!" Eyes turned towards her, questions hanging in the air. Then, with an unexpected flourish, she pulled back her sleeve, revealing a tattoo, a complex design that made Marcus's stomach drop. It was a symbol he recognized from his childhood, something whispered in dark corners of his family's past. He gasped. "What are you saying?" The crowd leaned in, tension thick enough to slice. "You have to trust me," she shouted, locking eyes with Marcus. "David isn't the one in danger. It's you." "What? Me?" Marcus's mind raced, confusion spiraling. Shadows gathered menacingly, but something deeper twisted inside him. Listen, there are forces at play that you don't understand. Your family, they've been hiding secrets for years. You're not just an inventor. There's much more tied to you. I'm here to protect you. Before he could process, a gunshot rang out, silencing the crowd instantly. People ducked and covered their heads, shock painting everything in a surreal light. David fell to the ground, a look of surprise crossing his face. "David!" Marcus screamed, rushing toward him. But the woman grabbed his arm, pulling him back. "No! You can't! They'll find you!" The chaos distorted around them, panic and confusion reigning supreme. Marcus's heart raced, the weight of terrifying possibilities crashing down. Allies turned to foes, and everything he thought he knew shattered. In that moment, as Marcus stared at the woman, he felt the truth hit harder than any bullet. He was at the center of something dark and dangerous. Anger surged through him, heart pounding. "What do you know?" But the answer hung palpably in the air like a storm, just waiting to break open. Marcus stood frozen, the weight of a storm brewing inside him. The wild-eyed woman's declaration echoed in his ears. "It's you they want!" The air vibrated with uncertainty. He didn't know where to turn. Panic gripped his chest as he fought to grasp the unfolding chaos. Then the explosion rang out. It wasn't just a sound. It was a jolt through the ground. The world shook around him, bodies flying in all directions, yells mixing with the blinding flash of heat. Marcus stumbled, eyes wide, heart pounding like a war drum. He couldn't breathe. Fear squeezed tight around his throat. "Get down!" Jordan shouted, pulling Marcus towards a nearby pillar, shielding him from the debris raining down. He could see people scrambling, falling, panic erupting like molten lava. The crowd was a sea of chaos, disbelief painted on faces, confusion swirling as everyone searched for safety. "David!" Marcus cried, glancing over his shoulder. But amid the wreckage, all he saw was smoke and chaos. Panic twisted inside him, desperation clawing at his chest. He couldn't lose his brother. He wouldn't. "Trust me!" the woman yelled again, forcing Marcus to focus. "We can't stay here." But something inside her voice shifted. There was urgency, a fear that cut deeper than the moment's chaos. She grabbed Marcus's arm, whispering fiercely, "You have to understand that your brother's not the only one in danger. They want to erase the evidence of your family, of what you're about to uncover." "What do you mean?" He was panting, adrenaline coursing through him. "What's happening?" But just then, another explosion ripped through the air, mirroring the chaos in Marcus's heart. A wall crumbled nearby, blocking the way to David, and Marcus felt the ground slip beneath him. The world was spinning, and everything was coming apart. "Move!" Jordan shouted, pulling Marcus back as flames flickered dangerously close. The wild-eyed woman began to drag Marcus away, desperation fueling her every step. "We need to get out before—" Suddenly, another figure appeared through the chaos. A man stepped from the shadows, face hidden under a hood, his expression unreadable. He raised his hand slowly, and the crowd fell silent, a heavy stillness blanketing the chaos. "Enough!" The stranger's voice boomed, a command that sliced through the panic. People halted, fear washing over them. "You're all being deceived." Marcus's heart raced. Who was this man? As the figure stepped closer, he pulled back the hood, and everything shifted. Time felt like it froze as Marcus's blood ran cold. The man's face? A mirror to Marcus's own. The same eyes, the same shape of the jaw. "Marcus," he said, voice steady, but filled with an urgency that felt like a thunderstorm. "I'm your father." Gasps filled the air, pulling Marcus back into the storm. "No, this can't be," he shouted. "No," shaking his head as memories tumbled through him. Fragments of a past he thought he'd left behind. "Your mother, she hid the truth," the man continued, stepping forward. "You're not just any inventor, Marcus. There's a legacy that binds us, one they want to obliterate." The truth slammed into him like a freight train, shattering everything he thought he knew. Suddenly, he wasn't just fighting for survival. He was caught in a web of family secrets that twisted like vines. And with that revelation, uncertainty bubbled to the surface. How could he trust this man? How did this change everything? Before he could respond, an ear-splitting sound echoed through the air. Another shot fired. Everything went white as panic surged again, and Marcus blinked through the cloud of confusion. The world spun, and everything hung in the air like a fragile thread. His brother, his past, his future. The question loomed larger than life. Who could he trust now? Marcus felt his heart racing like a drum, echoing the chaos enveloping him. His father's revelation, stark and heavy, hung in the air. Confusion swirled, but fear was sharper. "You're my father?" he whispered, looking into the man's eyes. They mirrored his own, filled with urgency, an urgency that made the terror surrounding them feel all the more real. "Yes," his father replied, voice low, eyes scanning the chaos around them. "I came to warn you. They're manipulating everything, and the world is closing in fast." Smoke swirled in the air, thick and choking. Marcus's mind raced with fragments of memories he had glossed over, family secrets long buried. Just as he opened his mouth to respond, another gunshot rang out. It struck like lightning. People screamed, and everyone hit the ground. Bodies collided as the crowd scattered in a panic, desperate to escape the rising chaos. "Stay close," Jordan yelled, pulling Marcus toward him. His voice strained against the noise. "We need to keep moving." And the urgency hit like a tidal wave. His brother, David's cries echoed in Marcus's mind. "We can't leave him!" But how could he remain? The chaos was overwhelming, and uncertainty gnawed at Marcus with every heartbeat. "Marcus, listen!" His father gripped his shoulder. "David can take care of himself. This is bigger than him and you. You have to trust me." No choice. Fear mixed with determination surged in Marcus, sparking a light of hope. "We have to save him." Before they could move, the wild-eyed woman seized Marcus's hand. "Trust me," she shouted, drawing him toward an alley, away from the chaos. "We need to find a safe spot to regroup." Shouting erupted again as police sirens blared, drowning everything in a wave of urgency. Pushing through the crowd, each step felt heavy, the panic wrapping around them like chains. The smoky air blurred visibility as tension thrummed like a live wire. Nearby, David struggled against officers, shouting for Marcus, "Help me!" His voice sliced through the cacophony, cracking Marcus's resolve. They darted into a small cafe, the air inside thick with the smell of burnt coffee and fear. They crouched behind a steel counter, hearts racing, breaths rapid. Outside, chaos reigned. It felt unreal. "We can't stay here. They're everywhere." The woman's voice trembled, urgency fueling her every word. "Marcus, your family is tangled in something dark. You have to break that cycle." A chilling realization settled in. The shadows of his past loomed larger than ever. Marcus blinked, recollecting fragments of family whispers about a legacy locked away. Rushing footsteps echoed outside. The millionaire's shadow appeared in the window, panic clawing at his features. "We need to go, now!" he yelled, face drawn tight with urgency. Just as they turned to exit, another explosion erupted outside, shaking the ground. The cafe trembled, and dust swirled up like a curtain of despair. Instinct kicked in. They moved, adrenaline coursing through them. As they emerged into the blinding light of the street, the inferno beckoned behind them. And in that instant, a thought hit Marcus. Could he truly trust any of them? Or was it all a web woven of deceit? He glanced back at Jordan, his father, and the woman beside him. Uncertainty hung in the air, a fragile thread of hope against a backdrop of darkness. "Let's go!" Jordan urged, eyes scanning the horizon, a shadow of worry cutting across his face. "We need to regroup and find a way through this." Marcus nodded, spurred by an inkling of determination to uncover the truth. They sprinted forward into the fray, but every step echoed unanswered questions. What awaited them on the other side? His pulse raced, and as they rushed down the street, Marcus felt the fiery light of hope flickering weakly against the backdrop of shadows. And in that moment, he realized he stood not just at a fork in the road. This was an uncharted path that could twist and turn into mysteries he had yet to uncover. He never imagined this journey would lead him to confront not just the darkness surrounding him, but the very essence of who he was meant to be. You need to subscribe immediately so you don't miss the exclusive stories to come. Smash that like button now to show the algorithm who's the true fans. Flood the comment section with your reactions in.